What is Mojang hiding? Yeah.
On February 23, 2012, a user named Mr. Arroyo makes a post on the Minecraft forums. It is entitled Exclusive, Secret File in Assets.minecraft.net. According to the post, Mr. Arroyo
What is Mojang hiding? Oh, the Minecraft code no one has sold.
was poking around on a certain section of the Minecraft website when he stumbled upon a mysterious file named 2minecon.7z. This file is a 7-zip archive designed to compress and store multiple documents in a single container. But this particular archive is password protected. The contents are encrypted and thus inaccessible. With no way to open the file himself, Mr. Arroyo turns to the community for assistance, hoping someone could unlock this file. No one knows it right now, but this post is the entrance to a rabbit hole, the world's introduction to a Minecraft mystery that will last over a decade. This seemingly simple discovery will prove to be far more mysterious than it initially seems.
My eyes.
Let's dive deeper into Mr. Arroyo's post. He accesses a section of the Minecraft website called assets.minecraft.net. Originally, this is the place where Minecraft's updates were stored. Although it's now inaccessible to the public, an archived version is available. Let's explore it a bit. The homepage is incoherent and confusing. It's difficult to pull anything useful from it. However, examining the source code reveals a link to a file called saved resource. It is an XML file and it's much easier to navigate. The file indicates that assets.minecraft.net is connected to an Amazon Web Services simple storage service bucket. Essentially, this is just a place to store files. The saved resources text provides a comprehensive list of all the files and folders in the bucket, complete with useful attributes for each item. For instance, the key attribute describes the file's name and retrieval path. To access, say, rc2/minecraft.jar, we just have to go to assets.minecraft.net/rc2/minecraft.jar. The size attribute shows how big the file is in bytes, and the owner tag says who uploaded the file. In this case, we can see that this Minecraft version was uploaded by Jens Bergensten, also known as Jeb. Another critical detail is the last modified attribute, which indicates the date and time when the file was uploaded to the bucket. The timestamps end with the Z character. This represents a time zone of ±0, also known as Coordinated Universal Time. For the duration of this video, all timestamps will be in this time zone. While this bucket primarily contains versions of Minecraft, there are some extra things, such as fonts and website assets. Remember SOPA? It also contains promotional material, icons, XML files, and whatever this is. But out of all these files, none are quite as strange as 2minecon.7z. Tucked away at the very end of the list is the largest file in the bucket,
What is that,
and it's the only one that's encrypted. Curiously, there is no owner attribute. We have no idea who created this file. The name suggests that this is, well, 2Minecon. November 8th, 2011 was the first day of Minecon 2011, a Minecraft convention held in Las Vegas. It included speakers, panels, merchandise, game demos, and the official release of Minecraft 1.0. The timestamp of 2Minecon is November 15th, 2011 at 10:23 a.m., 3 days before the convention. But if this file actually was some asset for the show, then why was it uploaded on a publicly accessible website? The multitude of oddities surrounding this file is what prompts Mr. Arroyo to make his forum post. Despite some interest, there's not much traction towards solving the mystery. After a few months of scattered responses, the investigation goes cold. However, on June 2nd, 2012, exactly 100 days after Mr. Arroyo's post, the mystery pops up again on a different website called Hack Forums. A new user has started the thread, asking the community for help with cracking the file. As Hack Forums is a computer enthusiast website, there are no shortage of people willing to make an attempt. And it is here that the 2Minecon.7z investigation is revitalized. Most attempts to open the file involved brute force. This is a method that tries as many password combinations as possible with the hopes of finding one that works. Unfortunately for the hackers, however, the 7z file format is specifically designed to be resistant to brute force attacks. Let me explain why. A 7-zip file is encrypted using a scheme called AES-256. I'll spare you the details, but essentially to open an encrypted file, a 256-bit key is required. However, not all passwords are 256 bits, so what happens if the password is a different length? To solve this issue, the 7-zip archiver uses something called a hash function. This is a special type of algorithm that takes an arbitrary amount of input data and results in a fixed output. For example, if I enter the password sub2rgn, the hash is the following string. But if I enter a longer password, say sub2rgn and like the video, the hash output is the same length. This is how the archiver converts a password into the encryption key. It doesn't matter how long your password is, the hash function gets it down to the right length. But there's a twist. Instead of hashing the password once, it hashes it over 500,000 times. If you know the password to an encrypted file, these 500,000 hashes are no big deal, going by quickly. But if you don't know the password, each password you check has to go through the 500,000 hashes every single time. This means that a brute force attack of attempting millions of passwords is slowed substantially, making it extremely challenging to find the password using this method. This was the dilemma that the users on Hack Forum faced as they attempted to open the file. Yet they attempted anyways, with several people cranking out possibilities on their computers. There's even mention of a Twitter user named Simba1 who started brute force attempts 2 days earlier, but the original tweets have been lost to time. In an unfortunate development, the same fate befell a portion of the Hack Forum's responses. From June 4th at 6 a.m. to June 5th at 7:44 a.m., there are no saved pages on archive.org. This represents 60 messages from that time frame that are no longer accessible. However, we can use context clues in the remaining messages to glean some information. Apparently, during this 26-hour gap, a user named Arcus managed to crack the password. It's mentioned by a user named FlippyBits on June 5th at 2:11 p.m. Arcus cracked it. I can vouch, he showed me some stuff over TeamViewer, but it does have serious vital information that would be very bad if it was leaked. This needs to be removed immediately. It's probably too late considering there's probably others with the password by now, but if the wrong people get a hold of this information, it will quite literally go down. This is quite the foreboding message. Apparently whatever's in this archive is a big deal. It's so important that FlippyBits says it needs to be removed immediately. A few responses later, we find another nugget of information. He made a big mistake by telling you guys it's only numbers for the password. I suggest if anyone gets the password to just look and leave it alone. Don't tell anyone, just keep it to yourself. This tells us that, although Arcus did not reveal the password outright, he nonetheless provided some information about it, namely that it only contains numbers. We can discover more clues about the missing messages by returning to the Minecraft forum post, which has started to see an increase in activity. A user named Palaxco corroborates FlippyBits' claim that the file contains vital information. Then, a few messages later, another detail about the password. Buildmaster says that it is 16 characters long. This is the only place that I can find this piece of information, which suggests that Buildmaster took it from the missing Hack Forums pages. And with that, we now know two key elements of the password, that it's 16 digits and that it is only numbers. However, despite this information, there has still not yet been any concrete proof that 2Minecon has been opened. Arcus insists that he's done it, but offers no verification. On June 8th, a different user posts a WinRAR image showing a text file called Players with Capes, but once again, there's no proof given. After about 10 days, the discussion begins to dwindle on Hack Forums. However, it continues intermittently on the Minecraft forum. But just a few weeks later, a new development occurs. On August 8th, 2012, a user named RyanTech posts a link to a tweet that he sent. Notch, I have a team of evil people ready to break the 7Z file. This was sent at 11:37 a.m. A mere 3 minutes later, Notch himself has posted a response. RyanTech, it's just the 1.0 release of Minecraft, concluding with a smiley face emoticon. Well, case closed, right? Notch, the creator of Minecraft, says it's just the 1.0 release of the game. But as it
Wait, who captured this photo? It is Japanese though, if you know the characters. So the guy was Japanese?
Turns out, something really interesting just happened, and it's something you would only know about if you happen to check assets.minecraft.net. When we do that, we once again see the XML file with a list of objects. Scrolling down to the bottom, we still see 2minecon.7z. But something has changed. The last modified attribute should be November 15th, 2011. Instead, it says August 8th, 2012 at 10:56 a.m. This is even more notable when we take a look at the etag attribute, which stands for entity tag. Remember the hash function, which takes arbitrary data and produces a fixed output? Well, that data doesn't have to be a password. It could be a file as well. And that's what the etag is, an MD5 hash of the given file. Thus, each bucket object has a unique identifier. If the file were to change, the MD5 hash and the etag would also change. Comparing the etag here with the one we saw previously, we'll see that they are different. The August 8th version of 2minecon.7z is not the same as the original. It's been swapped out for a decoy. They've subtly replaced it with a completely different file. The timing of this is beyond bizarre. By this point, discussion on 2Minecon had pretty much died down. There were no more hack forum posts and only occasional Minecraft forum posts. For reasons unclear, someone at Mojang suddenly decided to swap 2Minecon.7z with a different version. Not even 2 hours later, Notch responds to a question on Twitter, confirming the existence of the file. The fact that Notch even knows what this tweet is about is notable. Without proper context, the 7z file is vague, not to mention that Minecon 2011 was over 9 months ago. Why would Notch immediately recognize what this tweet is referencing? And yet he does, providing a virtually instantaneous explanation. Perhaps this suggests that it was Notch who made the swap. With the file on his mind, he'd be able to respond quickly. But the reason for the initial swap remains shrouded. If 2Minecon really did just contain Minecraft 1.0, then why bother swapping at all? And if it contained something else, why would Notch publicly comment on the existence of the file, instead of letting it fade into obscurity? And it's still super weird that the swap occurred just 2 hours before the first public acknowledgement of the file by a Mojang employee.
It's not weird because it's different senses, you know? It's a different sense of humans. Like as an example, if you just like saw the car accident happening in front of your face, meters or miles away from you, and you just saw that, you just seen that accident. As an example, if someone dies, then it's very hurtful to watch, right? So they don't care about people dying, you know, because they think it's like just nothing, because they will die someday or whatever. So it's like a different type of senses. Like how do we feel? Some people will actually feel sensitive about it. Some people will actually don't care about it. So that's a different type of people, right? So I think that Mojang employee took that personally and was too sensitive about it, and just like he swapped it. That's the thing. No?
Is it possible that there was a third event, one which caused both Mojang to swap the file and Ryan Tech to make the tweet? The entire sequence is mystifying. So now there are two versions of 2Minecon.7z, the original version and the swapped version. And with the subtle way that the swap was executed, how would anyone even know what happened? 1 month later, on September 8th,
Wait, which one is real? Oh, okay.
Actually does notice that there's a change in the XML file, saying that it has been updated. But no one acknowledges this discovery. The investigators fail to understand just how big of a deal it is that this file has changed. The Minecraft forum post sees limited engagement through early 2013, but by mid-April the conversation is ceased, and the investigation on 2Minecon.7z enters a dark age. The trail goes cold for nearly 5 years, interrupted once in 2016 by another Notch tweet saying that the file contains a Minecraft build.
Yo, I'm not even kidding. It's so scary. This one's so scary. Look at this photo. It's fucking furry, man. Fucking furry. No! Oh my god. Fucking furries are ruining our lives. Oh my god. I can't. This is fucking furry, man.
Limited engagement through early 2013.
Who likes unicorns? It's furries. Furries, I'm telling you.
By April, the conversation is ceased, and the investigation
And I mean that. I hate furries. Q.
on
Alright.
2Minecon.7z enters a dark age.
Q furries.
The file contains a Minecraft build. For the most part,
What's a file to Minecon.7z on the assets.minecraft.net server from 2012? How do we open it?
the mystery of 2Minecon.7z has been forgotten. The investigative community didn't even get a chance to appreciate the fact.
Wait, do I have the access to the assets.minecraft.net? Minecraft.net. Whoa, what is this? There's already a link. Oh, new launcher. Okay, so it has to be this one. This XML file does not appear to have any style information associated with it. The document tree is shown below. No such bucket. The specified bucket does not exist. The Minecraft.download. Assets.minecraft.net doesn't work. I think maybe they blocked it.
The investigative community didn't even get a chance to appreciate the fact that the files had been swapped. But within a certain community, a glimmer of hope remained. OmniArchive.uk is a website with the stated goal of preserving all official Minecraft content. Discussion of 2Minecon would pop up occasionally on their Discord server. On February 5th, 2018, a user named NapsterDude briefly mentioned that there may be 2 versions of the file, an indication that this key fact has not been completely forgotten. Over a year later, a user named amine is exploring old archives of assets.minecraft.net when they suddenly notice the encrypted 2Minecon file. They mention that they're sure people have gotten into the file already, but someone responds saying that they haven't. amine decides to investigate further. They tweet Tobias Malstum, a developer who was with Mojang from 2010 to 2014. Tobias actually responds, although it's not exactly helpful. Brute force it. amine doesn't give up though. They send an email to Jeb of all people, and assuming this screenshot is legit, Jeb responds. He says, "Hello Alex, I did some digging and I found this quote from Tobias. The file itself contains the 1.0 version of Minecraft, so nothing sensitive, albeit nostalgic. The file has been replaced with a bogus one with a bogus password to entertain the world. So there you have it. Hope you were entertained." This is meaningful because it serves as an official confirmation that the files have been swapped, with the apparent purpose.
But that's actually rare because Jens Bergensten directly mailed you. Oh, that's not happening, man. That's like 1 out of 1 billion chance. Like, are you kidding me? Way better than having, like, revealing the secrets of Mojang. Like,
of
are you
entertaining
kidding
the
me?
world. But unfortunately, not much came
No
of it.
one
The
has
trail
this,
went
man.
cold.
No one has this. Has a mail sent by Jens Bergensten and says, "Hello, Alex. I did some digging and found this code for." No way. No way.
Once again.
It's a direct message.
On March 18th, 2019, a user named Lackey asks Dinnerbone if he
Literally.
knows the password
That's
for 2Minecon.
so rare.
Dinnerbone is the username of Nathan Adams, an ex-Mojang developer. They're actually in the Omni Archive Discord server, and they respond with, "It does not contain anything useful to you, Lackey. What do you think it contains?" Nathan Adams was not hired by Mojang until February 28th, 2012. This means that he would not have been present for the creation of the original file. However, he would have been at Mojang during the swap, which occurred during his first year. The investigation, once again, grinds to a halt. But suddenly, on May 3rd, 2022, a breakthrough. A Discord user named Danny Dorito posts a message saying they've cracked the password. Danny doesn't reveal what the password is, but he does show what was in the file. At long last, we'll get to see what exists in this mysterious archive. Join me for a cinematic viewing.
Kids get the best of it with WDCA Channel 20 in Washington, D.C.
Think twice before you answer.
What?
Think
What the heck is this, man?
Think twice before you say yes. Think twice before you answer. Think twice before you say yes.
Huh? What are we looking at? Well, this is a comedy sketch by a man named Petey Green, who was a talk show host in Washington, D.C. His story is actually pretty fascinating. He joined the U.S. Army at the age of 16, serving for about 6 years. Several years after being discharged, he was convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to a decade in prison. While he was there, he became the prison disc jockey. His social skills were so good that he even saved the life of an inmate by convincing him not to jump to his death. Once Petey was released in 1966, he was hired at the AM radio station WOL-AM 1450, putting his DJ skills to use. By 1976, he had his own television show, Petey Green's Washington. He used this as a platform to discuss difficult issues such as poverty, racism, domestic violence, and income inequality. The video in 2Minecon.7z is a segment from the show entitled Be Yourself. But while all of this is interesting, it has nothing to do with Minecraft. And that's because, as you've probably already guessed by now, this is the decoy file, not the original.
Oh
We're
my
seeing the
god.
archive that was swapped out in August of 2012.
Brother,
This is what was
where
intended
is
to
the
entertain
real?
the world, in the words of
Where
Tobias
is the
Malmstrom.
real, man?
About a year later, a YouTuber named MCBYT releases a video covering the topic. It's a great piece of content that gave me a solid starting place for my research. The video describes the overall story of 2Minecon, bringing more attention to what had otherwise been a fairly obscure topic. A Reddit user named NoBackground5031 watches the video and attempts to decode the file.
Wait, MCBYT?
8 days later, they've done it,
Cool.
publicly revealing for the
Cool,
first time
cool.
the password. The spice must flow. This is a quote from the Dune movie. No, not that one. No, not that one either. It's actually the 1984 David Lynch version. Using this password, we can finally decrypt the archive ourselves. This reveals the video called secret.mp4 and another file called data with no extension. It's not clear what type of file this is supposed to be. I used a tool called TRID to see if I could identify it, but nothing came up. It's probably just garbage data designed to increase the file size, although we don't know for sure. But the story is about to take yet another twist. A couple of days later, a different user comments on the Reddit post with an intriguing message. I think I may have the original copy of this file. I recently saw MCBYT's video about this, and I decided on a whim to look through my backups to see if I had a copy. And sure enough, I did. It's certainly different than the version shown in the video, the decoy version. I did confirm that this "the spice must flow" password does not open it. Also tried against the same word list with no luck. The link to my file is here. Below is a link to a file called 2minecon.7z. Could this be the long-lost original archive? How do we know if this was real or just a troll? Well, let's think back to the very first Minecraft forum post where the user looked at data in the assets.minecraft.net XML file. The user copied some of the metadata corresponding to the file, which is corroborated by the archived version. Critically, this includes the E tag. Remember, the entity tag is unique to the specific file. If the file changes, then the E tag also changes. So if we can find a way to determine the E tag of the Redditor's file, we can check it against the archived E tag to see if it's the same. I pulled up the terminal and wrote the command to calculate the MD5 hash of the Redditor's file. Oh, it's different. So maybe this actually is a fake file. But before giving up, I decided to do a little bit more research into how the E tag works. And I discovered that the tag is not always the MD5 hash of the file. In certain situations, such as a multi-part upload, the E tag is calculated using a different formula, one which concatenates multiple hashes together. A Redditor on a different subreddit had a similar thought process to mine. A commenter named Aardvark1200 knew of a bash script called S3MD5 that could be used to reverse engineer the E tag of a local file. I downloaded the script and, with bated breath, typed out the command to find the E tag of the Redditor's 2minecon.7z.
Oh my god! No way!
This is it. This is the original 2minecon.7z beyond a reasonable doubt. It was stored on some random person's computer, hidden for a decade, only just now seeing the light of day. It's the critical piece of an unsolved Minecraft mystery that has endured for over 10
No
years.
way!
The 2minecon.7z file has been unearthed.
That's insane.
But even now, the mystery still isn't really solved. Instead, we've crawled just a little bit deeper into what has turned out to be a fascinating rabbit hole. And now that we've explored the story up to this point, there are some inconsistencies we need to discuss. One question that's been bothering me this whole time is who swapped the files, and why. I find it interesting that Notch discussed this 7z file on Twitter mere hours after the swap had occurred. Why did he choose to comment on it at that point? Was it just a coincidence, or was there something else going on? The Twitter exchange from 2016 may prove useful. A user named Lukavon sent the tweet. Notch, what's that file 2minecon.7z on the assets.minecraft.net server from August 8th, 2012? How do we open it? Lukavon, it's a build of Minecraft that we were showing at Minecon. It's a password compressed file. I don't remember the password. But there's actually something rather strange here. Lukavon is asking about the file from August 8th, 2012, which is the decoy file. However, Notch responds by saying that it was a build of Minecraft. For the decoy file, this is objectively false. We now know that it contains a video. So if Notch did, in fact, swap the file, this would be a lie. But there's really no reason for Notch to be dishonest, especially not in response to a random question on Twitter. This suggests an alternative explanation, that the file had been swapped without Notch's knowledge. I'm not going to claim to understand the deeper implications of this, and maybe there are none. Maybe it's as simple as Tobias replacing the file and getting to
Brother, run. You're gonna get arrested by Notch, man.
tell Notch.
Oh,
But the
hell
fact that the
no.
swap occurred mere
Borgensen, run!
hours before Notch's first public acknowledgement
Agnes, run!
to the file's existence is something
Holy
that feels
moly.
just a bit, I don't know, too coincidental. I'm not trying to make up some crazy theory, but this is a part of the story that lives like a thorn in my mind. I can't shake the feeling that maybe they're related. Let's switch gears for a bit.
Oh,
and
they
think
don't
about
have
what
to
actually
run. They don't have to run because Notch doesn't care.
could be in the original.
He doesn't care about the Minecraft anymore.
archive. There are 5 known
Indeed.
instances of current or former
Indeed.
Mojang employees discussing 2Minecon. We have Notch's 2012 tweet stating that it's the 1.0 release of Minecraft.
Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Tobias Molstam. Who is this guy? I've never heard of that guy before. He's a former front-end web developer of Mojang and managed most of the things that were directly related to the company and its websites. He's a longtime coder and designer for the web. But for the last few years, he's been into game development, which he studied at the University of Skövde. That he was leaving Mojang. Wait, so it's been a while since he left the Mojang.
As well as his 2016 tweet that we just discussed. Then there are the interactions with Amine when Tobias says to brute force it, and Jeb quotes Tobias, who said that it contained the 1.0 version of Minecraft, which was swapped. Finally, there's Dinnerbone's Discord message saying that it does not contain anything useful. Consistently, the current and former Mojang employees say that this was the 1.0 version of Minecraft. None have mentioned anything suggesting otherwise. But there is evidence that calls this into some doubt. When fully uncompressed, Minecraft version 1.0.0 takes about 50 megabytes of space. Compressing this using 7-zip gets it down to around 44 megabytes. That leaves about 30 megabytes of difference between the Minecraft 1.0 files and the size of 2Minecon.7z.
Wait, what?
There would probably be extra things like a sample world, but that would be unlikely to take up the remaining difference. So despite the comments by the Mojang employees, the file size suggests that it may contain information beyond just Minecraft 1.0. So let's broaden our search a little bit. I went through and watched a bunch of Minecon 2011 footage, looking for anything that might match the file. There are several moments where a short video clip is played for the audience, but they're all too long to reasonably fit into a 70 megabyte file. Then I looked at what games were demoed at the convention. There was a live demo of Scrolls, remember that, as well as Cobalt. Unfortunately though, I was unable to find an old enough version of these games to compare the file sizes. But for what was shown in the demos, 70 megabytes naively seems like it could match. One demo it is unlikely to be is Minecraft Pocket Edition. The game was so bare bones that the APK at the time was a mere 1.6 megabytes.
Oh, Pocket Edition. I remember
As I
playing that
continued watching
game.
Minecon videos, a thought crossed my mind. What if this contains the demo for the Xbox 360 version? The game shown at Minecon was version 1.66.0016.0, but there's no available archive of it. The first unmodified version available is version 35. The files are about 65 megabytes compressed and 68 megabytes uncompressed. This is much closer to the 2Minecon.7z size, and this leads me to believe that perhaps this is what is contained in the archive. At this early stage of development, a couple of megabytes of variation between versions wouldn't be strange. This interpretation also provides a potential explanation as to why Mojang would want to swap out the file. This was an incomplete game running on a demo console, not a full release. The build very well could have had proprietary Xbox 360 development tools on it, software which would need to be licensed from Microsoft in order to use. It could have included sensitive information, such as a license key or even the source code itself. If this was the case, there would be good reason for Mojang to want to keep it away from the public. A violation could potentially have legal ramifications. This theory would explain the encryption and the swap, but it wouldn't explain why it was uploaded in the first place. If it actually is proprietary data, why would Mojang even take the risk of putting it on a publicly accessible site? Was it just a hasty backup plan? To be honest, I'm not sure I have a great explanation. Another issue with this theory is that it does conflict with the Mojang employee's insistence that this file is Minecraft 1.0. Another theory I've seen about the reason for the swap is that maybe the contents of the file aren't sensitive, but the password itself is. Perhaps that password was used on other encrypted files beyond just 2Minecon. If that's the case, then a leak could represent a potential security breach elsewhere. Or maybe it's something I haven't even considered. Let me know what you think in the comments. There are a lot of weird things that don't quite add up, small details that are just so bothersome to me. It's almost as though there's some piece of evidence, some key insight that I'm missing, but I don't know what. I want to conclude with yet another oddity in this ever-deepening mystery. Back in 2012, when users were examining the original archive, there were a few people who claimed to have cracked the password. Recall that there was a user on the Minecraft forum who said that the password was 16 characters long. While they didn't provide a source, it seems likely they got this from the hack forum messages that were not archived. However, since no one was ever able to show proof of decoding the password, there was no way to confirm the legitimacy of this information. And yet, when the Reddit user attempted to decode the decoy, they used the fact that the password was 16 characters. If we look at the spice must flow, we see that it matches exactly. And this leads to a captivating question. If no one was able to decode the original file, then how could a very specific piece of information about the password ultimately end up being crucial to the decryption of the decoy? Is it possible that someone, somewhere, actually did decrypt this file? Thank you so much for watching. This mystery ended up being far more interesting than I could have imagined, and I'm
Interesting. So this was a year ago, more than a year ago.
A few days ago, I made a video titled "The Minecraft Code No One Has Solved." It took a deep dive into a mysterious archive on the Minecraft website called 2minecon.7z. This file, uploaded back in 2011, is locked behind a password and thus inaccessible. The story of 2minecon is fascinating with multiple twists, including Mojang swapping out the original file for a decoy. There's far too much to unpack in this short introduction, so if this interests you, go watch the original video. I've linked it below. My video turned out to be quite popular. This is clearly a mystery that resonated with a lot of you. I was able to learn some new information that I missed in my original video. I was also able to talk to people who are experts about this mystery, including the person who cracked the decoy, Danny Dorito himself. However, I also got the chance to talk to a lot of people who had never heard of this mystery before my video, and after reading many responses from these people, I realized that there were areas of this mystery that I either glossed over or didn't explain thoroughly. Therefore, I decided to create an update video to help improve our understanding with new information and fill in gaps that were in my first video. So join me as we examine the mystery of 2minecon once again. After releasing my video, I opened a temporary discussion channel on my Discord server for 2minecon. I discovered that there was far more community engagement than a typical video. Unsurprisingly, much of the conversation was centered around looking for ways to get into the original file. For a lot of people, their initial instinct was to attempt a brute force attack. If you recall from my first video, a brute force attack is a strategy that involves trying as many passwords as possible with the hope that one of them works.
Brute force is like one of the stupid method. For me, I think so. It just doesn't work, man. If it's lucky, then it's gonna work, but it's like, it's practical and needs a lot of time to do that, so nah. For me, if you are a professional hacker, then brute force is not the only one.
The fact that the decoy had already been decoded, and it seemed logical that the same could be done for the original. Unfortunately though, the idea to attempt a brute force attack is misguided. To understand why, we need to revisit the 7z file format. As I explained in the first video, 7-zip files are secured using AES-256 encryption. These can only be opened with the correct 256-bit key. Some viewers suggested the possibility of breaking the encryption itself so that the key wouldn't be necessary. However, AES-256 encryption is really good. It's a standard used by the US National Security Agency, more commonly known as the NSA. If this branch of the federal government trusts it for national security, then that's further evidence that AES-256 is pretty darn robust. Breaking it would have far bigger implications than some random Minecraft file. Since breaking the encryption is off the table, the only option is to discover the correct key that decrypts the file. When you enter a password, the 7-zip archiver generates the 256-bit key in a process I explained in more detail in the first video. If the key is correct, congratulations, the file is open. But if the key is not correct, you'll have to try again. This is the only way. Without the key, you can't just open the file. The encryption is far too strong. Logically, one might think the solution is to just try a bunch of keys until the right one is found. In theory, this is true. If you manage to try every single possible key, one of them would be the correct one. The issue, however, is that there are a lot of options. 256 bits corresponds to a total number of 2 to the power of 256.
Oh my god.
If we convert this to decimal form, the number is about 10 to the 77 possibilities.
What?
That's a 1 followed by 77 zeros. Wolfram
Oh
Alpha
my
says
god,
the name for
no.
this number is
Hell no.
100 quadrivigintillion?
What?
Quadrivigintillion? Like, come on, that's a lot.
Nah.
As big as this number looks and sounds, it's even bigger
No
than
one's
that.
gonna do that,
But
man.
just how big? What if we compared it to, say, the number of individual cells in the human body? Nope, there are only about 36 trillion, or 3.6 times 10 to the 13. We aren't even close. So what could be bigger than that? What about, oh, I don't know, the age of the universe in seconds? How many seconds has it been since the Big Bang? Nope, still not close. It's only been about 430 quadrillion seconds, or 4.3 times 10 to the 17. Okay, so what about the biggest number I've ever mentioned on my channel, the number of possible Minecraft seeds? In my video alone, I said that if you created a Minecraft world with a 16 million meter world border, every surface block could represent a possible Minecraft seed. Surely we're starting to get close, right? Nope. That's only 1.8 times 10 to the 19, or 18 quintillion. And we're trying to get to 10 to the 77. We need to be thinking way bigger, like astronomically big. So let's try it. What about the mass of the entire solar system? Still not even close. It's 2 times 10 to the 30 kilograms, or 2 nonillion. We somehow have to go even bigger. So what about the number of atoms in the entire Milky Way galaxy? That's 4.6 times 10 to the 68, or 460 unvigitillion. But guess what? We're still a billion times smaller than the total number of 256-bit AES keys. Okay, so what about the entire universe? How many atoms are in the observable universe? And only now do we start to approach the number of possible keys. Depending on the estimate, the universe has about 60 quinvigitillion atoms, or 6 times 10 to the 79. Finally, we found something that's a similar size. I want you to imagine that I have 500 special atoms. Think of them like Willy Wonka's golden tickets. But instead of putting them in chocolate bars, I'm going to scatter these atoms randomly throughout the entire observable universe. Now, your goal is to find one of these atoms. How would you do it? Well, you'd have to examine a bunch of atoms. Pick one and look at it. Is it the special atom? No? Move on to the next one. Is this one special? Still no? Look at the next one. And you'll keep searching and searching and searching. You'll search all the atoms on the Earth, all the atoms in the solar system, all the atoms in the Milky Way. You'll have to search through galaxies, black holes, planets, all with the hope that you somehow find just one of these elusive 500 atoms somewhere in the universe. This is what you're trying to do when you're looking for an AES-256 key. The difficulty of guessing the correct sequence of bits is nearly impossible to comprehend. To illustrate, imagine that we could guess a trillion keys every second. If we started guessing at the birth of this universe and continue to this very moment, we would need to repeat this entire process a billion times. And then the whole thing about 250,000 additional times. Only then would we be guaranteed to find the
Are you good? Are you good?
key. The probability of success is so small that the English language lacks the words to adequately describe it. It's so minuscule that for our lifetimes, it's effectively zero. You're not going to find it by running a computer program on your laptop. Hopefully, these analogies help put this into some perspective. However, this discussion naturally leads to a question I left unanswered in my first video. If it's really so obscenely difficult to brute force the password of a 7z file, then how is the decoy cracked? The solution lies in reducing the 10 to the 77 possibilities using educated guesses. In practice, we aren't dealing with raw 256-bit numbers. We're dealing with text passwords that are converted to 256-bit numbers. Since these passwords are often made by humans, an insecure password might have patterns we can exploit. Imagine that you needed to log into a random computer. What password would you guess first? If it were me, I would start with, well, password. If that didn't work, I'd try password with a capital P. And then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are a lot of logical guesses that are worth attempting before you resort to mashing your keyboard. The same basic approach can be used at a larger scale. There are researchers who have examined plaintext passwords that were exposed in data breaches. They combine these millions of passwords into a list of the most popular ones. These lists are publicly available. You can scroll through and see what passwords are the most common. And if you happen to see your password on there, you should go change it right now. So if an attacker is trying to break a password, it makes sense for them to try the most common passwords first. If that doesn't
Well, that's quite interesting because none of my password is on this list because my password is unrecognizable.
work, looking at similar
It's not even a word. It's not even a
variations is
word.
a logical next step. If it turns out the password isn't secure,
It's
this
like
gives
it's like a text art, you know, because I make a like art like drawings on my password, so that's why.
them a great chance of finding it.
No, none of them. I don't contain English words or yeah, it's not even a word.
And this is essentially what Danny Dorito did when he opened the decoy. I used a tool called 7z2hashcat to convert the zip file's header into a usable hash for hashcat. Then I used a few lists of data breach passwords to crack the hash. How this works is by trying each password to see if, when hashed, it matches the hash of the 7-zip file. This process is incredibly intensive, and it essentially has to run the encryption algorithm for each password. The reason it was so easy to crack is it was 4 easy words, and not that far into the word list I was using. The decoy password was insecure, which made it vulnerable to this type of modified dictionary attack. This answers our question of how the decoy was cracked. But let's flip to the other side of the coin. Why doesn't this work on the original file? Well, Danny talks about this too. He says, the original most likely uses an actually secure password that would be difficult to wordless crack. This right here is the critical difference between the decoy and the original. People were able to open the decoy because the password was specifically designed to be insecure. Tobias wanted someone to crack the file. This puzzle was part of the stated purpose of entertaining the world. He therefore chose a password that was intentionally weak to common cracking strategies, increasing the likelihood that someone would eventually open it. But as Danny Dorito mentions, this does not appear to be the case for the original 2Minecon. It was not designed to be easily cracked. Attempts at similar dictionary attacks have all failed. We have every reason to believe that this file has a secure password. And if that's the case, your only option is to go back to brute forcing, searching every atom in the universe. One important consequence of this discussion is that we can be certain that the people on hack forums who claim to have opened the file were trolling. I'm not sure how I missed this in the first video, but Arcus later did admit to it. The reports of cracking the file were fabricated. This means that the supposed information about the password can't be verified. We don't know if it has 16 digits or if it's only numbers. We know absolutely nothing about the nature of the password for 2Minecon. This is one thing I failed to drive home in my first video, just how big of a difference a secure or insecure password makes. This applies to all passwords. The reason websites require your password to be a certain length is it means an attacker has to try more options before they can guess your password. When you add numbers, capital letters, and symbols, the password quickly becomes effectively impossible to brute force. It appears that the original 2Minecon password is like this. The practical reasons are strong enough to original 2Minecon password. The practical reasons are strong enough to avoid cracking attempts, but there's another.
You guys are probably the same because if you guys have the main email and if you lose it, then it's GG.
Angle through which to approach this. As it turns out, there are additional comments made by Dinnerbone about 2Minecon. I didn't mention them in the first video because, well, I didn't know they existed. One of these messages provides an additional reason against attempting to crack the file. At the point where you found something with a password and are considering throwing significant power in cracking said password, you start entering territory that I think is an actual crime in many places. Regardless of the contents, the act of breaking into something where you have no indication you were allowed in and are trying to overcome a method of keeping you out. Now, I must make it very clear that I'm not a lawyer, and I can't comment specifically on the veracity of Dinnerbone's statement. But regardless, I think his point is solid. It's clear that this file was not designed for the community to open, and there could be potential risks that go along with that type of thing. However, that's not all. Dinnerbone provides even more insight later on. I can't stop you from cracking it, and if the file were so confidential, it would have been taken down years ago. But it isn't for you, the contents are not exciting. This statement highlights an aspect of the mystery that I wish I'd covered more deeply in my first video. If the original file did contain sensitive information, then Mojang would have handled the situation very differently. They would not have made a swap, as this action inherently draws more attention to the original file. Instead, they would have quietly removed 2Minecon from the website. Without the swap, I think there's a good chance that this mystery would have faded into obscurity. Dinnerbone also mentions that the contents are not exciting, a sentiment consistently echoed by the other current and former Mojang employees. Considering all this, my belief is that this file doesn't actually contain anything extraordinary. Minecraft 1.0 is the most likely option. A few extra megabytes could be a launcher, sample worlds, or part of another version. My opinion is that it really is as mundane as the developers say. Despite all this, I can empathize with why people want to crack the file. There genuinely is a lot of intrigue surrounding it. The swap, the old Minecraft history, the fact the decoy was decoded. These are the things that drew me towards this mystery, and it's why I made my initial video. But I do think that I needed to make this video too, because there were things I didn't explain well enough. I didn't spend enough time discussing why the decoy and the original files are different. Specifically, I failed to show how the decoy was intentionally easy to solve, and I didn't describe why the same isn't true for the original. I also missed out on Dinnerbone's additional comments on the file, and as a result of my failures, many viewers left the first video under the mistaken impression that attempting to crack the original file might be worthwhile. Instead, 2Minecon.7z is best thought of as lost media. There's simply no feasible way it will ever be opened. Not to mention that, by now, I doubt that Mojang developers even remember what the password is. It would not shock me if they too are unable to decrypt it. The contents of 2 Minecon are tantalizingly out of reach, and it seems this will be the case indefinitely. I realize that for some, this conclusion may be rather disappointing. The idea that we may never uncover the secrets can feel anticlimactic. However, I think opening the file might feel the same way. We have another Dinnerbone quote. "You'll be very disappointed in the results. Not every box is a mystery that needs solving." In a weird sort of way, the fact that we'll never know what it has doesn't really detract from 2 Minecon at all. If anything, this is the cherry on top. This is what makes it truly special among the Minecraft mysteries. The game has been analyzed so much, to have one secret that will be impossible to uncover is kinda cool. It's different, it's weird, and it makes the whole 2 Minecon story that much more memorable and unique. Without a doubt, this is one of my favorite Minecraft mysteries of all time. Thank you so much for watching.
Part 3? Oh my god, this guy.
A few weeks ago, I released a video covering a mysterious archive hidden on
Almost. Almost. Almost is insane. Wait, part 4? Oh my god. I'm gonna skip the part 3. No, part 3? How long is this? 11
few
minutes.
weeks ago.
Okay, sure. I'm not gonna skip it.
I released a video covering a
Oh my
mysterious
god.
archive
I was
hidden
about
on
to
the
end the
Minecraft
stream
website.
and this
It's called
guy.
2Minecon.7z,
This
and
guy.
the story surrounding it is truly fascinating. It includes various twists and turns, such as Mojang swapping out the file for a decoy. After a few days, I gained some more information and made an update video. But less than 24 hours after that, something happened which turned the mystery on its head. Dinnerbone himself gave an extensive question and answer session about the mystery, and he revealed many fascinating nuggets of information. These updates answer many of the questions regarding this archive, including a never-before-seen screenshot of what's inside. With such huge revelations, I just had to make another update video. We are going to learn a lot more about this mystery. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos, go watch them now. This video is not going to make much sense without proper context. But enough of the introduction. Join me as we delve even deeper into the seemingly unending rabbit hole of 2Minecon.7z. Let's start with the file itself. Dinnerbone gave us some additional information about its purpose. As it turns out, 2Minecon actually was to the Minecraft convention. The name didn't have some secret meaning. It was intended for me and a few others to have a copy of Minecraft before release, such as to install on computers. I used it to update Bucket Live in the expo. So why was it uploaded in the first place? I don't know exactly why it was put on the S3, but that was the easy way of sharing things back then, and they probably just didn't think twice about assuming it was hidden. Remember, this was a couple of developers running a super small operation. It was not the Minecraft or Mojang of today. Nobody was looking into things like this. However, there's another important detail. 2Minecon was not supposed to be publicly accessible. This file was unintentionally made public. It was not intended to be given out, and the password was a safety measure to make sure that even if it did end up in someone else's hands, it's not a big deal. It was clearly a mistake someone made. One continuing mystery is who made the initial file. If you recall, it was missing an owner attribute in the bucket. We don't know who uploaded it. However, Dinnerbone doesn't know either. I don't know who made the original file. Okay, so what about the contents of the file itself? There have been many theories regarding what specifically is contained within, and it is here that Dinnerbone provides a groundbreaking piece of information, a screenshot of the opened 7-zip archive. For the first time ever, the public gets to see what's inside 2Minecon. And, well, it actually does contain Minecraft 1.0. The compressed.minecraft folder takes up about 44 megabytes of space, just as I predicted in my first video. We can now see that the remaining file size is filled with Java installers, the Minecraft server jar, and the game's executables. There isn't anything spicy.
Wait, what? What? Wait, it was solved?
Not a big deal. Dinnerbone doesn't know specifically what's inside 2Minecon. And, well, it actually does contain Minecraft 1.0. The compressed.minecraft folder takes up about 44 megabytes of space, just as I predicted in my first video. We can now see that the remaining file size is filled with Java installers, the Minecraft server jar, and the game's executables. There isn't anything spicy here. The other Mojang developers were telling the truth. However, there is a bit of intrigue. It's possible that this is not the exact same build as the one on the launcher due to how the file was created. The contents is Minecraft 1.0. It might technically be a different version than is available on the launcher. I don't remember if it was the same one we released, but the difference would only be in timestamp and obfuscation randomization. He continues further. This is going by memory. Normally I think Notch made the builds and obfuscation was fairly incremental. I believe this time, Jeb made the build and shuffled all the obfuscation around, different version of ProGuard or something, who can say. I was updating Bucket live on the show floor to the new 1.0 version, but given that it was totally shuffled around and the limitation of my tools back then, it was too difficult, so I asked that the full release be made from the regular PC again so that we don't waste time. I'm not going to say it's impossible that something else was in this build, because I'd have to check that and I don't have the time or energy to do so, but it's unlikely. In other words, the game itself should nominally be the same as Minecraft 1.0, although there might be slight differences in the actual files because it was built in a different way. But that shouldn't actually matter, the game would presumably play identically to the launcher version. Someone did ask if this build could ever be released to the public. I don't know, I'm not going to say no, absolutely not, but I'm also not in a position to just give files away like I used to be. Dinnerbone does provide one additional detail about the file itself, the number of files in the archive. 7zip says there's 314 files. Most were accidentally put there. There was really only 6 files of importance. This is pretty much all Dinnerbone had to say about the contents of the archive. There are a few redundant quotes that I've put here for completion's sake. However, there's more. Dinnerbone also discussed the password itself. As you can tell by the screenshots of the open file, he still does know the password, disproving one of my theories from the last video. This leads to a fairly logical question. What would happen if the password were to be leaked now? As it turns out, not much. Dinnerbone says, "Today I could absolutely give you the password with no concern in the world, but that's no fun." However, this might not have been true in the past. Apparently, this password was used in another place, confirming one of my theories from the first video. The password was reused for something else at the time, and I cannot risk-free just give that password out. There was a time that the public having that password would be a bad thing, but that time was over a decade ago. Long since changed and was never anything important, but that's how things are. If you get hold of a time machine and come visit the old office, it'll be a bit embarrassing for someone. The password itself used to be important. He says that it would have been a bad thing for it to become public. But now it wouldn't be an issue if it were to leak. In that case, why doesn't Dinnerbone just tell us what the password is? The biggest problem I have with this, though, is that people assume they have a right to know or crack a password to something they weren't meant to have. My objection is the entitlement people seem to have, that they should know the password at all. But on the whole, people should not be trying so hard to crack files they do not have permission to. Dinnerbone elaborates by saying that some attempts have gone too far in the past. Take a look. In other servers years ago, people tried bringing other files into this, websites that they felt should be a part of this somehow. It got out of hand, and that's why I wrote the reminder that this file was not meant for people to have, and trying to crack it and other files open is dangerous. This particular file happened to be fine, but nobody knew that. It's just that we didn't want people to have the password. One of his main points is that attempting to crack a file that's not for you can result in various degrees of damage. While 2Minecon wouldn't have been a major issue, he implies that, in the past, people attempted to crack files that actually would have posed a serious problem. When asked if he's okay with people attempting to crack 2Minecon now, Dinnerbone builds upon this idea. Well, it's been over a decade and that password isn't such a big deal anymore, so I'm not going to stop you. However, this does not mean anyone is free to try and crack other archives or things that we haven't given permission for. Please do not try and break into every lock you see, that's just not okay. Sometimes the locks are there for a reason, not just as a fun challenge. I don't think it's cool to waste thousands of dollars on cracking a password that was not meant for you either. There's no obligation to give you the password to a file that was never meant to be public. Dinnerbone discussed a few other random things worth mentioning. The decoy came up a couple of times. When asked why the original was swapped, this was his response. The reason it was replaced with a fake file is because we didn't want people trying to crack the password. We knew that they'd try anyways, so maybe it would throw them off if they didn't realize the file had changed. This is pretty interesting because it did work for a long time. The fact that the swap occurred was pretty close to being forgotten. Dinnerbone also confirms the Jeb quote saying that Tobias Malston made the decoy. He also says he does not know what's in the decoy. There's another intriguing nugget regarding the swap. Here's a fun fact for you all though. When it was discovered that the file was public and the decoy was made to swap it out, we assumed the password would be public knowledge basically that week. I guess we way overestimated the encryption. Hurrah for 7Z? Funny how that works out. Had they chosen a different archive encryption, this story could have been very different. And then we have a few other random topics worth mentioning. For one, why is Dinnerbone even answering questions at all? Because people constantly nag me about the password, and I figure I'll dispel any further mystery. I actively do not want attention. I've tried hard to remove myself from having an online presence for years. It's brought up every single year. I'm hoping this is the last. Sorry about that, Dinnerbone. This most recent nagging is my fault. For those of you watching this, don't nag Mojang developers anymore. Dinnerbone has done a tremendous job of explaining the unanswered questions regarding this mystery. And to top it off, Dinnerbone graciously gave me permission to share these quotes with you, and for that, I'm very grateful. He also touches upon the idea that the mystery is, in many ways, more exciting than the solution. I'll answer a couple of basic questions about 2Minecon that aren't related to the password if you all like, but it's honestly not so exciting, and the mystery is probably more fun than the answer. I think in practice this has been proven true. There's a temptation to not believe the simple, boring answer. Dinnerbone mentions this as well. I kind of feel like even if I live streamed me opening the archive and sending them out one by one on Discord, people will call fake and that it's misdirection. The files are Minecraft 1.0, you can get it from the launcher. The thing is, the contents were never a mystery. We've been pretty upfront whenever developers have been asked about it over the years. People don't believe it, but mysteries are always more fun than reality. And so that's pretty much it. The obvious solution, the one that Mojang developers consistently said, is the correct one. It's Minecraft 1.0. Maybe the real password is, as Dinnerbone says, the friends you made along the way. I'll conclude with a full quote. I've referenced it a few times, but seeing it all is worthwhile, and it provides a good summary of Dinnerbone's position. I'll reiterate what I wrote elsewhere here just for transparency. Whilst the specific file 2minecon.7z doesn't have anything confidential in it, the password was reused for something else at the time, and I cannot risk-free just give that password out. There was a time that the public having that password would be a bad thing, but that time was over a decade ago. I will not stop people from trying to find the password for this archive, and I do not believe anyone else will either. However, this does not mean that anyone is free to try and crack other archives or things that we haven't given permission for. This file was unintentionally made public. It was not intended to be given out, and the password was a safety measure to make sure that, even if it did end up in someone else's hands, it's not a big deal. Please do not try to break into every lock you see. That's just not okay. Sometimes the locks are there for a reason, not just as a fun challenge.
Next video.
For those of you who have been following my channel recently, you are probably aware of the 2Minecon.7z saga which I've been covering. This is a mysterious archive that was uploaded to the public Minecraft website back in 2011. It's password protected, and the story surrounding it is quite fascinating, including Mojang swapping out the original file for a decoy. I'm not going to attempt to summarize the history here, as it's far too complicated for this introduction. Instead, watch the playlist link below if you're curious. After the release of my first video, more information was found which led to a second video. Just a day later, a Mojang developer named Dinnerbone provided an extensive question and answer session, which meant that I had to make a third video on the topic. And now, after all that, we've reached the ultimate conclusion of the 2Minecon.7z saga. The password has been found. A user named Doge from the fan club Discord was able to do it. Let's take a look at their explanation. What I did was super easy and required little to no know-how. In fact, it was the first thing I thought to do. So easy that Hashcat ran for 1 second before I had the password. I collect breaches and as such have over 4 billion unique records. So all I had to do was take only those which contain @mojang.com and try all the associated passwords, which had already been cracked from other breaches they were in. This gave me just shy of 3,000 different records and just over 2,000 unique passwords. In the end, the password was, which was associated to the email info@mojang.com. Today, I learned from RGN that the original non-decoy file was released, so I extracted the 7z hash and this was my first attempt, a success. So what is the password? Well, here it is. Boxpig41.
Wait, what?
I'm not quite sure what this means, if anything.
What
but
does
it does
that
give
mean?
us the key necessary to finally open 2Minecon.7z.
Wait, it's not even 16 letters long.
What wonders will it contain? What is in this file lost for over a decade? And, well, it contains exactly what Dinnerbone's screenshot said it did.
God.
Almost. We have 2 Java
Wait,
installers,
almost?
the 1.0 server files, the Minecraft launcher, and the batch file that runs the installers. Within the .minecraft folder, we find Minecraft 1.0.0. However, there is one tiny difference. A bug related to server authentication remains, which was fixed in the final release. But beyond that, there's nothing special. It's identical. 2minecon.7z is what the Mojang developer said it was this whole time.
Hmm?
So what about that spiel in my second video about how difficult it would be to brute force a secure password? Well, as it turned out, the 2minecon.7z password was not actually secure. It was a password that had been used elsewhere, just as Dinnerbone stated. When this password was leaked, Doge was able to use it as a guess for the archive, a guess that turned out to be accurate. And this serves as a great warning to all of you. Don't reuse passwords. It puts all of your accounts at the mercy of the website with the weakest security. Instead, you should have a different password for each account. That way, if one of your
Wow,
accounts has a password
educational
leaked, it
video.
can't be used to access the others.
What a nice
This is
guy,
the
man.
critical mistake
What a nice
that led to
guy.
the archive being opened.
Wait, that's it?
So there we go. With that, we can officially close the book on the 2minecon.7z mystery. Thank you so much to all of you who've joined me on this journey. I had a ton of fun. I really enjoyed talking to so many people who are fascinated in this, and I feel honored to have been a part of the conclusion to this decade-long mystery. I'd like to give an additional thanks to MCBYT for showing me 2minecon, to Dinnerbone for the helpful comments, and to the community for taking this idea and running with it.
That was a good video, yeah.